The radical revolution, why vulnerability is the ultimate power move. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I recently had the privilege of sitting down with Kastunga Bell, a force of nature whose journey from corporate executive to transformational leadership coach has not just inspired thousands of Black women, it has fundamentally changed how we understand power in the workplace. Kastunga isn't just breaking glass ceilings, she's reimagining the entire architecture of success. Through her groundbreaking work, she has created safe harbors for Black women to reclaim their humanity in spaces designed to strip it away. Her impact extends far beyond individual transformation. She is systematically dismantling the harmful paradigms that have kept too many brilliant minds trapped in cycles of exhaustion and disconnection. Tonight, I want to share with you the insights from our conversation that challenge everything we've been taught about strength, leadership, and achievement, especially for Black women who have been conditioned to believe that armor is necessary for survival in professional spaces. We live in a world that celebrates the hustle, work harder, sleep less, sacrifice more, push through the pain. This mentality has become so normalized that we wear our exhaustion like badges of honor. I'm so busy has become our default response when someone asks how we're doing. We brag about working 80-hour weeks and answering emails at 2 a.m. But what if this entire framework is fundamentally flawed? What if the very qualities we've been taught to suppress, vulnerability, emotional awareness, and the need for rest, are actually the secret ingredients to sustainable success? This is the counterintuitive truth that Kastunga Bell discovered after nearly burning out as a senior executive at a Fortune 500 company. I had achieved everything society told me would make me successful, she told me, her voice carrying the weight of hard won wisdom. The corner office, the six-figure salary, the respect of my colleagues. And I was miserable. I was exhausted. I was disconnected from myself. Her revelation came not during a board meeting or strategic planning session, but during a moment of complete vulnerability. After presenting flawlessly to the executive team, despite running a 102-degree fever, she collapsed in her office. A colleague found her, and instead of calling for medical help immediately, they took a photo to share in the company chat as an example of dedication. That moment changed everything for Kastunga, not because she realized she needed to work less, but because she realized she had been complicit in perpetuating a culture that valued productivity over humanity, a culture that particularly impacts Black women who face the double bind of both racial and gender stereotypes that demand strength, resilience, and perfection at all costs. We've been sold this lie, Kastunga explained, leaning forward with an intensity that commanded the room, that to succeed as Black women, we must be twice as good, twice as strong, twice as impervious to pain or fatigue. We're expected to be superhuman while simultaneously being denied our full humanity. The data supports her observation. Studies show that Black women are 2.5 times more likely to experience burnout than their white counterparts, yet are 20% less likely to seek help or take time off. The strong Black woman schema, while born as a survival mechanism against oppression, has evolved into a psychological prison that prevents many from acknowledging their needs and limitations. But here's where Kastunga's insight becomes truly revolutionary. She discovered that embracing vulnerability, the very quality she had been taught to hide, became her greatest professional asset. When I finally had the courage to tell my team that I needed support, that I couldn't do it all alone, something miraculous happened. she shared. Instead of losing respect, I gained it. Instead of appearing weak, I demonstrated authentic leadership. By acknowledging my humanity, I gave others permission to acknowledge theirs. This shift didn't happen overnight. It required unlearning decades of conditioning. It meant questioning the narratives she had internalized about what strength looks like, especially as a Black woman in predominantly white spaces. Kastunga began experimenting with what she now calls strategic vulnerability, the intentional practice of showing up authentically while maintaining appropriate professional boundaries. She started by simply acknowledging when she didn't have all the answers. I don't know, but I'll find out. Became a phrase she used regularly, replacing the pressure to appear omniscient. She implemented wellness practices that honored her body's needs rather than overriding them. 8 hours of sleep became non negotiable. Lunch breaks away from her desk became sacred time. She declined meetings scheduled during her designated family time. Most radically, she began speaking openly about the unique challenges she faced as a Black woman in leadership. Rather than pretending these challenges didn't exist, the strategy she had employed for years, she addressed them directly, creating space for meaningful conversations about inclusion and equity. The results were transformative. Her team's productivity increased by 34% within 6 months. Employee retention improved dramatically, and perhaps most surprisingly, she was promoted to an even more senior position, not despite her new approach, but because of it. What I realized, Kastunga told me, her voice dropping to an urgent whisper, is that we've completely misunderstood what strength actually is. True strength isn't the absence of vulnerability, it's having the courage to be vulnerable anyway. This insight aligns with research from organizational psychologists who have found that leaders who demonstrate appropriate vulnerability create psychologically safer environments where innovation thrives. When leaders model authenticity, teams feel empowered to take risks, share ideas, and bring their full selves to work. But for Black women, embracing vulnerability carries additional complexities and risks. In a world that has historically dehumanized and hypersexualized Black women's bodies, that has dismissed Black women's pain, that has labeled Black women's emotions as angry or aggressive, vulnerability can feel not just uncomfortable, but dangerous. Kastunga acknowledges this reality. I'm not suggesting that Black women should be vulnerable in unsafe spaces or with people who have demonstrated they cannot be trusted with our humanity, she clarified. Strategic vulnerability means being discerning about where, when, and with whom we share our authentic selves. She emphasized that this approach isn't about making others comfortable or performing vulnerability to appear more approachable. It's about reclaiming the full spectrum of human experience that has been denied to Black women for generations. When we embrace our vulnerability, she explained, her voice rising with conviction, we reject the dehumanizing narratives that have been imposed on us. We declare that we are not machines. We are not superhuman. We are gloriously, messily, beautifully human. And that humanity is not a liability, it's our greatest strength. This philosophy extends beyond the workplace into all aspects of life. Kastunga shared how embracing vulnerability transformed her personal relationships, her health, and her sense of purpose. I had to learn that asking for help wasn't weakness, she said. Needing rest wasn't laziness. Having emotions wasn't unprofessional. These were all lies I had internalized from a system that profits from our exhaustion and disconnection. The poet Audre Lorde wrote, "Caring for myself is not self indulgence, it is self preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." For Black women, especially, claiming the right to vulnerability, to rest, to wholeness is indeed revolutionary. But how do we begin this revolution in our own lives? Kastunga offered three practical strategies that anyone can implement, regardless of where they are in their professional journey. First, practice what she calls vulnerability mapping. Identify the spaces and relationships where you feel safe enough to be authentic. Start there, gradually expanding your comfort zone as you build confidence. You don't need to be vulnerable everywhere all at once, she advised. Begin with one trusted colleague, one authentic conversation, one boundary that honors your humanity. Second, redefine your metrics of success. Instead of measuring your worth solely by productivity or achievements, incorporate well being indicators. How well did you sleep? How connected do you feel to your purpose? How present were you with the people who matter most? When we expand our definition of success beyond external validation, Kastunga explained, we create space for a more sustainable and fulfilling approach to our careers. Third, find community with others who are on similar journeys. Kastunga emphasized that transformation is rarely a solo endeavor. Having people who understand your experiences, who can validate your challenges, and who can celebrate your growth is essential. This is why spaces created by and for Black women are so vital, she noted. We need context where we don't have to explain or justify our experiences, where our full humanity is assumed rather than questioned. As our interview concluded, Kastunga shared a powerful affirmation that has guided her journey. I am not just what I accomplish. I am valuable because I exist. My worth is inherent, not earned. This simple yet profound statement challenges the foundational lie that has driven so many of us to exhaustion, the belief that we must constantly prove our value through productivity and perfection. So I stand before you tonight with an urgent challenge. What would happen if starting tomorrow you dared to be vulnerable in one small way? What if you admitted when you didn't know something? What if you asked for help when you needed it? What if you allowed yourself to rest without guilt? These acts may seem small, even insignificant, but they are revolutionary. They are direct challenges to a system that profits from our disconnection from ourselves and each other. The world doesn't need more exhausted martyrs. It needs whole, authentic humans who have the courage to show up as they are. It needs leaders who understand that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the ultimate power move. I urge you to join this radical revolution. Question the narratives you've internalized about strength and success. Challenge the systems that demand your exhaustion. Create spaces where vulnerability is recognized as the superpower it truly is. Because when we embrace our full humanity, we don't diminish our power, we magnify it. We don't become less effective, we become unstoppable. The revolution won't be televised, but it will be felt in boardrooms and living rooms, in text messages and team meetings, in the small, brave moments when we choose authenticity over armor. This is not just about personal transformation, this is about collective liberation. Because when one of us breaks free from these limiting beliefs, we create possibility for others to do the same. So I leave you with this question: what would your life and work look like if you no longer had to pretend to be superhuman? What could you create? What could you become if you embraced the revolutionary power of your own vulnerability? The answer to that question could change everything, not just for you, but for all of us. Thank you